So how was 2017 for you?
Disappointing.
Oh my god, sometimes I have nightmares where it's still 2017.
Why make a film about 2017, if you don't mind my asking?
So we asked around, and it seemed like a lot of people felt like 2017 was kind of a turning point in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like society was heading in one direction. And then 2017.
Yeah, exactly. So we figured that was worth talking about, basically.
Yes, there were certainly some horrid things in the news. I think I've tried to forget most of it.
I may or may not have blocked out most of that year. I'm not sure how much good I'm going to be to you here.
No, whatever you feel like talking about is fine.
Partisanship. That was the theme of the year. I mean, my goodness. Suddenly everyone seemed like they were divided into different groups, like different races on Star Trek. Oh, you can just dismiss so-and-so, those Romulans are all the same. To say nothing of the freaking Nazis. There was a lot of hatred in 2017.
Looking back, that was the first year I really started thinking about how most people have most things in common, but we focus on the few differences and turn everything into us versus them. But there actually is an us and them, and it's normal people and extremists, and they win when the rest of us are fighting amongst ourselves.
Ideological extremists, but then also financial extremists. If you trade lies for money, you're still a fanatic. Hashtag 2017, to use the relevant vernacular.
It seemed like extreme personality types had been getting rewarded with power for quite a while.
So you'd say there's a lot of difficulty in 2017.
Yeah, that's one word for it.
People should understand how needlessly difficult it was for young people in 2017. When you build a society that has infinite potential for personal success, but you don't structure in the kind of controls that ensure that everyone progresses in relative unison, you rather negatively impact the minds and wallets of the upcoming generation.
It was like musical chairs, except there's more chairs than people, and you still don't get a seat somehow.
And tell me about where we are right now.
Okay, so this is the neighborhood where I lived in 2017. The usual thing of something looking affordable, but then your rent is 180% of your income.
I had to move twice in 2017. You get new owners in and they quickly jack up the price before you can introduce yourself and put a face on things. That was really the year where I started to notice how some people don't actually want to live in a society. They would just not give an inch if it meant someone else would benefit and not them.
I think all my favorite restaurants were out of business by 2017 because of rent hikes. Property developers in an office somewhere that you never meet just making decisions for everyone else about the character of your neighborhood.
These are, of course, things I didn't necessarily even realize at the time, but I've come to realize. There's much that seems more than bizarre in hindsight.
Attitudes toward mental illness and disease. That was a huge theme.
Even my own attitude was pretty disappointing, to be honest. Though it got me thinking, at least.
Got you thinking?
Yeah, about how for better or for worse should be a vow for friendship too, and not just married people.
There's this huge opiates epidemic. The one we wouldn't have had if we treated drug addiction humanely in the 80s and 90s. And if you have any other disease, this whole huge support system materializes around you to make sure you're taken care of. But if you have the disease of addiction, you're just left for dead? Why? Because you chose to take the drugs? Well, guess what? I can think of a couple other things we choose to do that cause disease, but we don't consider those a moral failing. 2017.
There's always some backwards, inhuman aspect to society that's only acknowledged in retrospect. And it can really get you down. Really get you down.
I was so depressed in 2017. I can't even tell you. You just feel like you're not successful enough, and you're not pretty enough, and you're not experienced enough, and no matter what you do, it's just not good enough, and you feel like it's just you, which is the worst part.
I've never spoken about this, but in the summer of 2017, I was so depressed I was afraid to leave the house in case I happened to walk past a bridge. I'll actually never forget that.
And it was a great tragedy that we'd publicly celebrate the artistic expression of very sad people, but we wouldn't expend quite as much effort in protecting them. Some people feel more, and the rest of us can't just sit back and enjoy the good parts and leave them at the mercy of themselves. And that lesson can only come too late.
When have too many people died for them to have died for nothing? I think it was 2017 when I started to think about things differently.
You mentioned Star Trek earlier. There's actually a new Star Trek series that came out this year.
There was. Very exciting.
What would you say about culture in 2017? It seems like it wasn't that different from previous decades. Pop music, video games, Star Trek.
Yes, the individuality of decades was noticeably on the decline in 2017. as music and technology sort of plateaued, I suppose I'd say.
I mean, I spent 2017 listening to the kind of thing that would have been called oldies once. I think I was listening to the Smiths. Their last album came out 30 years earlier. But my parents listened to classical, and when's the last time Brahms put out a record? I think the more time goes by, the more you realize the good things will always be good. They're immune to the passing of time and all its sickening crimes. Unlike me, unfortunately.
Well, I think you look great.
Thanks so much.
Star Trek's a great example of how culture changes but doesn't change, and the way it always reflects the need for a positive vision based on the problems of the time. So in the 1960s, it had Americans and Russians working together, and then in the 80s and 90s, you had stories about privileged societies rationalizing ways to not make war. And then in 2017, Star Trek seemed to say it wasn't good enough that the real world was such an insane contradiction, with prejudice being instantly transmitted across the planet by fiber optic cables, cavemen taken great distances by things they could never have created themselves. We were kind of halfway to Star Trek in 2017. We had the ships, but not the crew.
I think a lot of stuff is always going to be the same. You look back at other centuries and it feels like another planet, but it wasn't. And I guess it becomes a little easier when you're looking back on a time that was recorded in 1080p. You notice so much.
I think 2017 was around the time when people started to actually take notice of the problems other people had been dealing with their whole lives. By December, I was just looking back on the blissful 90s with shame.
2017 was like one of those cows where you have a hatch in the side so you can see into the digestive system. There was a lot of shit that became visible.
So compared to how things are now, do you think the world has gotten better? Worse?
Well, I'm biased because I live here, but I can honestly say that things have gotten loads better since 2017.
That's the thing. 2017 seemed like the friggin' end times, but even the ideal future of Star Trek was built on the ashes of World War III. Good people only run for office when things have been terrible, and I would tell people 2017 was the end of a lot of complacency.
I might be very slightly older and marginally less beautiful than I was in 2017, but the world is at least going in the other direction, so it's pretty much worth it.
When you've known someone your whole life, you don't notice them aging, though.
Yeah, so the fact that the same familiar world looks so visibly different now says a lot. Like, holy shit, Earth, did you get work done?
Earth is hot.
And for all the young people watching, you think aging sucks, but what doesn't suck is living long enough to see the world improve. This great, immortal creature that seems to only get younger and more open-minded and more advanced. Can you believe self-cleaning fabrics didn't exist in 2017? Can you imagine having to constantly wash all of your clothes? It's craziness. I tell my grandkids, and they just stare at me. They think I'm joking.
That's actually kind of why we wanted to do this project, to kind of see if there was a new way to really help bridge that gap between now and the past.
That's terrific if we could help.
Oh, for sure, and there's actually more to it as well. So what we did was take scans of some old photos of all of you, and we're actually using the CG program that we developed to transform all you guys on the screen in real time. So while right now in person I'm seeing you as you are in 2067, the people watching the documentary are going to see and hear you guys exactly as you would have appeared 50 years ago in 2017.
Oh, wow, really?
Indeed.
So the concept we had for this was that, whenever you watch documentaries, you're always looking back on things, so you kind of don't really connect with the past as much as you should. And that's a shame because...
I completely get what you mean. You watch World War II documentaries and you think the war was fought by old men, but they were like 20 at the time. Wars fought by kids, and you never get a sense of that. And not only kids, but kids who cared about the same things we do. Kids who weren't different from you.
Yeah, every generation does things for the same reasons. It just looks different due to technology. 100 years ago, that would have been an aspirational ad for cars. And 100 years from now, it'll be an ad for teleporters. But each time, it's just people wanting to fill the same need.
Yeah, if you guys got a technology that can help people see those parallels, then you really got something there. Because not being able to see the parallels was the entire problem 50 years ago.
Yeah, we really wanted to try a new style of documentary. Start by hopefully making 2017 way more real for the people watching this.
Oh, I can't wait to see this. I looked friggin' great 50 years ago. Bring on the footage.
We can actually show you how you look on the monitor here.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Hi, I remember you.
Oh, you handsome devil.
God, it's like time travel. It's so weird. Suddenly I can kind of remember all those people I used to be. This is the kind of thing 2017 needed.
That's such a good idea, though. Looking back on 2017, you remember all the problems caused by people not seeing each other as the same, living in a society physically, but not mentally.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for being part of this.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, but how's the documentary going to end, though?
Oh, you should kind of fade out on the CG to show how we actually look in the present day. Blow some minds.
Is the scenery CG'd as well?
Full the big reveal at the end. Like, hi, this is me now. But inside, I basically still think I'm 30, so I'm glad you could see me how I see myself as well.
Is there anything else you'd like people to know?
People say, oh, don't get tattoos, what about when you're old? But take a look at me. I look friggin' badass. Sorry to all the mums and dads watching.
I want to say that there aren't the divisions that you think there are between you and your grandparents, or now in the past, or anyone really. That's you in the history books, if you were somewhere else.
There's no such thing as oldies.
I want you to know that I might not look like you, but I used to. And life wasn't that different for me when I was your age.
So yeah, you know how we thought the world was going to shit? Well, guess what? Everyone has always thought that. And then they have kids who are way smarter and nicer than them. Kids, aka future old people.
2017. It completely did feel like a turning point, but it was because what was happening in the world changed us to see how willing we were to fight for a better world. And we were pretty damn willing, as it turned out.
Just on a personal level, I started to push back against things in 2017 because I wanted to still be here in 50 years. If you'd like to know the story of 2017, have a look at 2067 because one led to the other. Because that's how it works.
It's really the perfect year to use in this movie. It seemed like it was one thing and then it turned out to be something else. Something that brought us together.
It didn't feel like it then, but we were just links in a chain, and I think that chain gradually gets too long to ignore.
Nothing really divides us, not even time. There's one race, and that's the human race.
I'm actually not surprised you chose 2017 to make a film about. That was around the time I started to imagine a better future.
And the only way to make sure there's a future is to remember that we're all someone else's past.
Oh, we should end on that. Nice one.
Well, I had 80 years to think of it.